In the vast hall of the Interstellar Council, sunlight streamed through tall crystal windows and painted dancing patterns on the polished floor. Earth's brightest minds stood in neat rows, their faces lifted with pride and hope. Ambassador Mira Langridge felt her heart swell as the council's grand chamber buzzed with celebration. She gazed at the seals of long-held peace treaties, believing tonight would mark the beginning of a new era of collaboration. Children of Earth, watching from secure holoviewers, clapped their hands in joy. Everywhere, hopeful voices spoke of unity and shared purpose. When the final treaty scroll was unrolled, a hush settled over the assembled delegates. Chancellor Rovan of the Serac Dominion stepped forward, a somber look shadowing his noble features. The room's warmth seemed to chill instantly. Electrical hums from hovering data drones stuttered, as if confused. Ambassador Langridge pressed her hand to her chest, puzzled by the sudden silence. Then Rovan spoke, his voice steady but distant. He declared Earth unfit for peaceful membership and ordered immediate exile. Shock rippled through the council floor like a wave crashing against rocky shores. Mira felt her knees weaken. She stumbled, back steadying herself with a hand on the cool marble. Around her, council members gasped and murmured. The seals on the treaty began to glow with an eerie violet light, each pulse marking a verdict, written in cold code. Astronomers in their flowing robes exchanged terrified glances. Scientists shook their heads in disbelief. A single tear slid down Ambassador Langridge's cheek as she realized the betrayal was not a mistake. It was a deliberate verdict delivered with perfect clarity. Outside the chamber, Earth's people watched the broadcast feed in living rooms and public squares. Mothers held children close, while fathers clenched their jaws. In schools, teachers paused in mid-lesson, their eyes wide with fear. Across every time zone, from dawn in Asia to dusk in the Americas, the same stunned faces stared at their screens. The betrayal echoed beyond politics. It struck at the heart of every human who believed in the dream of galactic friendship. Hearts pounded and breaths caught in chests as a world that had looked forward to tomorrow instead saw tomorrow disappear. Back in the council hall, Ambassador Langridge gathered her courage and stepped forward. Her voice shook as she addressed the assembly. She reminded them of Earth's tireless work, its scientists who cured ancient diseases, its environmentalists who revived dying worlds, its artists who had woven stories that inspired entire star systems. She pleaded for mercy, for reason, for compassion. But the Chancellor's face remained impassive. His words were final. Earth must leave now, forever barred from the Council's light. As the holographic seals flickered out one by one, a soft alarm began to ring through the hall. Security androids slid into formation, their mechanical eyes reflecting flares of alarm. Crowds of delegates parted like curtains, revealing Earth's evacuation vessels arrayed in an adjacent docking bay. Their white hulls bore the emblem of humanity, a half-sun rising over blue and green swirls. Engineers hurried along catwalks, checking thrusters and refueling tanks. Each roar of a reactor tested the still lingering calm. Ambassador Langridge strode toward the nearest ship, her mind racing. She thought of the countless souls who had built this moment, trusting in the bonds of peace. Now those bonds lay broken, their fragments scattered like stardust. She touched the cold metal of the hull and whispered a promise. We will survive. We'll find a way back. Around her, scientists and soldiers, diplomats and schoolteachers, all swore to stand together. Though their home world had been cast out, their spirits would not be discarded. The exiles of Earth would carry their hope into the unknown. Before the first light of dawn could warm Earth's cold sky, a hush of urgency fell over the last blue city. Streets that once echoed with laughter and daily bustle lay empty, save for the steady hum of evacuation transports. In the heart of the city, families huddled beneath ageless spires of glass, each clutching worn suitcases and battered data drives. Children's eyes shone with wide wonder, uncomprehending of the danger, while parents forced brave smiles and offered whispered comforts. It will be all right. We are together. Along the river of concrete and steel that led to the orbital docks, rows of battered colony ships stood beneath floodlights. Their pale hulls glinted like fallen stars, each bearing the painted crest of humanity arising, sun over swirling oceans. Engineers in grease-stained overalls darted along catwalks, checking pressure gauges and calibrating engines. Sparks flew as welders repaired hull breaches scarred by time. Every strike of the hammer rang out like a heartbeat, promise that these vessels would carry survivors to safety. Volunteers, young and old, formed lines at supply depots stacked with crates of emergency rations, water purifiers, and medical kits. A grandmother with silver hair passed out hand-cranked radios. A soldier, stripped of her uniform but retaining her steady gaze, distributed woven blankets embroidered with family names. Nearby, a programmer loaded memory banks with Earth's greatest works, recordings of music, libraries of literature, galleries of art. She pressed her palm to the drive, murmuring, "Take our stories with you." In makeshift command tents, diplomats and military officers huddled around holomaps of flight corridors. Red lines marked danger zones where council patrols lingered, ready to strike. Blue corridors cut through safe vectors toward the hidden refuge or rumored sanctuary, beyond known space. Chief Navigator Chen traced a trembling finger along a twisting wormhole path. He drew a deep breath and said, "This route may bend reality, but it is our only way." His words fell like a challenge into the tent. All eyes met, and each person understood the silent vow. No one would be left behind. As the first evacuation vessels lifted off, families gathered on the ground. A father kissed his daughter's forehead, freeing her from tears he could not hold back. A mother brushed soot from her son's cheek, whispering stories of the stars they would see. Distant whistles of rockets pierced the air. The heavy boom of boosters shook the platform. One by one, vessels rose into the starlit sky, carrying Earth's children into the unknown. An elderly man, his voice cracking, recited an old lullaby until the ship's hull settled into silent glide. Back on the surface, the city's streets felt unnaturally hollow. But soon, another wave of evacuees poured forward. This time, it was the scientists who came, biologists carrying samples of Earth's flora, engineers with blueprints of self-repairing machines, medics in stained scrubs pushing carts of medicines.
Ow.
Their faces were drawn with exhaustion, but their eyes still burned. With purpose, every life saved, every memory secured, felt like a victory against oblivion. Amid the chaos, they found small moments of humanity, a shared joke, a comforting pat on the shoulder, a prayer murmured under trembling breath. High above, Ambassador Mira Langridge watched from a command shuttle as the last of the transports departed. Through the viewport, she saw the council chamber's glowing seals fade into darkness below. Her heart ached at the thought of a home they would never see again. Yet she felt a thrill of pride as she looked upon the vessels soaring toward new worlds. She turned to her aide and said, "We carry more than bodies. We carry hope." The aide nodded and pressed a silent salute. As the shuttle lifted away, a chorus of ignition roared across the docks. Human voices rose and sang a centuries-old anthem of Earth, adapted to new harmonies. The melody wove through the engine's thunder and into the sky. On distant balconies, survivors paused to listen, their hearts lifting on each note. In that shared moment, fear and sorrow gave way to unity. They were exiles of a betrayed world. But together they were the bearers of tomorrow. When the shuttle plunged into the darkness beyond the atmosphere, the glow of Earth's bright cities blurred into thin blue lines. Behind them lay a world that had turned its back, and ahead lay the vast canvas of the unknown. Each soul aboard, engineers, artists, children, elders, clung to the belief that no matter what awaited, they would face it as one. And in that unity, even the darkest night held a promise. Humanity's dawn had only just begun. As the last evacuation vessel slipped through the glowing wormhole, a hush fell over its anxious passengers. Inside the cramped cabin, engineers held on to worn struts as the ship trembled. Outside, the wormhole's swirling light bent and fractured, casting ghostly patterns on the hull. Captain Reyes gripped the armrest and closed her eyes, remembering the quiet blue sky of Earth. Now she felt only vertigo and a cold knot of fear in her stomach. Round her, families clutched each other, children's faces pale in the flickering glow. No one spoke. They waited for the other side. Suddenly, the wormhole spat the vessel into a fractured void. The stars outside fractured like broken glass, each shard glowing with a different hue. Instruments chirped alarms as gravity shifted. Crew members stumbled, their boots failing to hold them to the floor. Systems rebooted in jerky stutters. Ship's lights dimmed, then flared. Somewhere a hiss of escaping air made hearts pound. In the comms room, Lieutenant Jiro shook off dizziness and barked, "Status." His voice echoed oddly, as if spoken in a hall of mirrors. "Whatever." In the medical bay, Dr. Shaw rushed to calm a sobbing child whose blanket had drifted away in the zero-G. She wrapped the small body in her own coat and hummed a lullaby from Earth's old songs. Her gentle voice filled the sterile space and soothed more than just the child. Nearby, engineers Malik and Rosenthal worked side by side, their fingers dancing over emergency panels. Sparks flew as they rerouted power, salvaging life support from damaged lines. Each spark felt like a small victory against the void. On another bridge console, Navigator Chen stared at the screens in disbelief. Each transit had hurled different ships into separate pockets of reality. Some vessels emerged in realms where time flowed backward, others where gravity pulled sideways. A chill ran down his spine as he realized the fleet had shattered like a mirror thrown on stone. He tapped a message to the flotilla network. "Report your coordinates. Do not attempt to return." His hands trembled, but he kept typing. Below decks, passengers formed tight huddles. A mother rocked her baby and whispered stories of Earth's green fields. A young soldier offered his water ration to an elderly couple, trembling with shock. Strangers clasped hands and shared words of comfort. A faint hope kindled in their hearts. They were still alive, and they were together in this broken journey. Even here, fear could not snuff out their will to live. Hours passed in fragmented moments. Some ships drifted near others, drawn by weak emergency beacons. A lone skycraft, flown by Darius, traced the flickering signals like a moth to a flame. He landed on a floating island of rock covered with crystalline trees that chimed in the breeze. He stepped onto the cool surface and met wary glances from a handful of survivors. Darius lifted his helmet and spoke simply, "I'm here to help." In their eyes, gratitude and relief bloomed. Elsewhere, Ambassador Langridge's command shuttle found itself in a place where the sky pulsed with violet storms. Lightning danced. Without thunder, and rain fell as glowing droplets. She steadied the ship against invisible currents and guided it to a clearing of smooth, glass-like ground. When the ramp lowered, she walked beneath the eerie sky, each step echoing in the stillness. Technicians scouted the area and found strange plants that seemed to breathe light. Myra recorded every detail, her mind racing with questions. Could they survive here? Could they build a home in this storm world? As day turned into a strange twilight, the fractured fleet began to gather what strength it had left. Crews pooled supplies, water distilled from bizarre puddles, food rationed with care, and raw data logs to share knowledge. Sense of purpose steadied shaking shoulders. Captain Reyes broadcast a short message across all channels. "We are scattered, but we are not broken. We will find each other and rebuild." Psst. Her voice, firm and clear, cut through the silence like a beacon. In tiny enclaves across the shards, humanity's scattered children clung to that message. They lit makeshift fires and shared stories of Earth. They mapped unfamiliar skies and marked safe havens. Though each world was strange and strange dangers lurked unseen, they faced it all together in spirit. In the fractured passage, fear had chased them, but hope had followed close behind. And wherever the next dawn rose, whether under familiar suns or alien storms, human hearts beat with the promise of survival and the unbreakable bond of home. On the first world, survivors stepped onto soft sands that glowed like embers at dusk. Each grain seemed to pulse beneath their boots, leaving faint prints that shimmered in the fading light. Engineers set up tents of woven metal strands, their surfaces reflecting the pale glow of twin moons. Children raced along the dunes, their Laughter carried on a warm breeze scented with unfamiliar flowers. In that moment, hope sparkled in every eye. New home could grow from these glowing sands. In another reality, a forest of towering trees greeted arrivals with gentle creaks and sighs. The trunks were smooth and pale, and their branches wove together high above to form a living cathedral. Botanists knelt to study the roots that writhed like bands of silver, mapping ways to cultivate earth crops alongside alien seedlings. A timid deer-like creature with jade fur watched them from a moss-covered boulder. A slice of fruit it nibbled gently, forging a fragile bond between two worlds. Meanwhile, on a shard where rivers flowed uphill, settlers adapted their water harvesters to drink from waterfalls that defied logic. Fishermen sketched charts of floating fish that leaped from eddies below, only to land upstream. At the river's edge, a teacher gathered children on a driftwood log and pointed out constellations reflected in the water's mirrored surface. She told them stories of Earth's night sky, weaving memory and marvel into their lessons so they never forgot their origins. Not all places were welcoming. On a glass plain that stretched to the horizon, shards of broken reflections made navigation a puzzle. The sun gleamed off smooth surfaces, blinding travelers who had to don special visors before venturing out. A survey team set up beacon towers that pulsed with low-frequency hums, guiding lost explorers safely back to camp. In the dusk of that world, they shared warm soup and stories of home, forging community in the silent expanse of broken light, under violet storms on another shard. Stormcatcher's devices built to harvest energy from lightning hung from sturdy frames. Scientists and volunteers worked side by side to tweak the circuits, cheering each successful spark that filled power cells. At night, the camp glowed with captured storms, and families gathered under makeshift roofs to share meals warmed by crackling currents. Even in that wild place, laughter rose above the thunder, proof that human spirit could tame even alien fury. Back on the floating island where Darius first landed, survivors had cleared the crystalline forest to build a small village of glass and metal. Artisans carved glowing crystals into lamps that lit winding paths between homes. Farmers experimented with soil mixtures to grow familiar vegetables and planters perched on rock spires. At sunset, villagers gathered at the edge of the island to watch the stars wheel overhead. Humming a soft tune from Earth's old songs that drifted across the void, across the shards, communication networks took shape. Beacons hummed secret codes that only human ships could decode. Navigators used these signals to pinpoint each other's locations, planning rescue missions for isolated groups. In one message, Chief Navigator Chen wrote, "You are not alone. Keep beacon on. We will come." Each time a reply crackled back, it was a triumph of connection over isolation, a reminder that unity could bridge even the deepest divides of reality. Among the survivors, council formed to share resources and wisdom. Ambassador Langridge chaired meetings where representatives from each enclave joined by HoloLink. They discussed trade routes for food and medicine, swapped research on strange flora and fauna, and voted on shared projects like building a fleet of reality-hopping vessels. Their voices, speaking in different accents and tones, blended into a single chorus of determination and care. In the quiet hours before dawn, many found time for reflection. A mother cradled her newborn under the soft glow of alien stars, promising her child a future where Earth's light would shine again. An old historian recorded tales of the betrayal and exile, weaving them into stories that would teach future generations of courage and resilience. A young engineer sketched designs for a reality bridge, a theoretical passage that could reunite the shards at will, even in hardship. Moments of joy emerged. Scouts returned with baskets of sweet fruit discovered in hidden groves. Children, taught to play with alien instruments, filled the camps with music both strange and beautiful. Artisans painted murals of Earth's oceans beside alien skies, reminders of what was lost and what could be found. Each new idea sparked another. Each shared discovery knitted the scattered people closer together. As the first full cycle passed on these new worlds, festival took shape. Hellfires were lit on hilltops, lanterns floated into purple skies, and stories of Earth were retold beside alien wonders. People danced to rhythms that mixed human drums with crystalline chimes. In the hearts of every survivor burned a fierce pride. Though the council had shattered their reality, humanity had not shattered. It remade their world with courage, kindness, and endless hope, wherever they looked across glowing deserts. Storm-swept plains and floating forest humans saw Pasab. In the pale dawn of the glass-shard world, survivors discovered a lake so still it felt like a mirror stretched across the land. Ambassador Langridge led a small group to its edge. When she knelt to fill her canteen, her reflection looked back. Yep, the eyes held sorrow she did not feel. She recoiled and glanced at the others. Each saw a self that felt strange and distant. Mara Winters, the ship's chief psychologist, watched children press their hands to the water. Their mirrored faces smiled with joy, then blinked tears of their own. A little girl named Lynn whispered, "Why is she sad?" and pointed at her. Echo. Mara knelt beside Lynn, offering her hand. "Sometimes our hearts remember things we try to forget," she said gently, "but we can teach them to be happy again." Across the shore, a group of engineers gathered data. The reflections tinkered with machines that did not exist. One engineer, Malik, reached out, and his echo mimicked him. Then it shook its head as if to say, "No." Malik pulled back, heart pounding. He felt as if his past mistakes had taken shape. He turned away, wiping a sweat drop from his brow. Mara raised her voice to calm the gathering. She invited everyone to sit, forming a circle around the lake. She guided them through an exercise of naming what they felt when they saw their echoes. A silent hush fell. A veteran pilot, Anders, admitted he felt guilt for the lives lost during the council's betrayal. A medic, Shaw, confessed fear that she could not save every child. Voices trembled but were honest. When the sharing ended, Mara led them in a simple ritual. Each person collected a smooth, pale stone from the lake's bank. They held it close and spoke one truth they wished their echo to know. "I am brave. I am kind. I will heal. I belong." As words left their lips, the stone seemed to pulse with warmth. Tears fell freely but with relief. After the ritual, families joined engineers to build a small shrine of promises beside the water. Wooden beams from wrecked vessels formed a frame. Cloth from evac uniforms, dyed by alien plants, became colorful banners. They painted words of hope, unity, strength, home. Children climbed and hung their stones on branches, turning the shrine into a tower of light and memory. That evening, Darius lit lanterns along the lake's edge. The glowing orbs drifted like floating echoes. Survivors sat close on blankets, sharing stories of their lives on Earth. They laughed at small jokes, and sorrow found space to heal between smiles. When a strong wind scattered the lanterns, a child gasped, but then adults together recaptured them, showing that hopes could be saved when held by many hands. Under the twin moons, crews recorded their experiences with the echoes. They cataloged patterns. Some reflections showed fears, others regrets, and a few revealed quiet strengths hidden beneath doubt. This knowledge became a guide for building communities. They understood that memories, both painful and joyful, could shape their future for better or worse. A young botanist named Rosenthal set out to study the lake's magic. Noted that the water came from an underground spring of crystalline minerals unique to this shard. He theorized that the same forces that bent reality might stir memories in living minds. Mara listened, fascinated. Together they planned gentle experiments to help people heal by confronting and reshaping their echoes. Days passed in a steady rhythm of exploration and reflection. A shrine grew. New stones, fresh banners, painted messages. Ambassador Langridge often stood alone at its center, placing her own promise stone. "We survived together." She felt a quiet strength settle in her chest. Watching survivors from every role come together warmed her more than any sun. Quiet morning, a group of children ventured across the lake on floating crystalline lilies. They laughed as their reflections bobbed and sang softly in the rippling water. A soldier named Jade joined them, her armor gone and simple clothes soft against the stone dock. The children invited her to join their song. She hesitated, then lifted her voice. The melody mingled with their laughter, and her echo laughed too. By the end of the week, the lake had become a place of healing and unity. Survivors came to face their echoes, speak truths, and leave tokens of promise. They no longer feared their reflections. Instead, they greeted them as teachers, guiding them toward courage and forgiveness. The shards of reality still lay fractured around them, but within this lake's circle, humanity found a whole truth that even broken selves could grow strong again. When the sky flickered with the first signal from another fleet ship, news of rescue rippled across the camp. People cheered and embraced their neighbors. In the golden light of new dawn, the shrine's banners fluttered and stones glowed. Ambassador Langridge addressed the crowd. "We have seen our reflections, named our truths, and built hope from the pieces. Now we will carry this strength back to every shard and beyond." But in that moment, the betrayal felt far away. The council's verdict still loomed, but its power had lessened against what humanity had found here, an unbreakable bond of shared truth. And as each survivor turned from the lake toward the horizon, they carried new light in their hearts, proof that even when reality shatters, hope can reflect back stronger than before. Across the reality shards, a quiet revolution began. Small beacons, repurposed from council-cum relays, flickered to life atop rocky spires and crystalline towers. Each beacon sent a soft pulse that human ships could detect, like a digital heartbeat calling friends home. Navigators listened for these signals in the dark, their eyes lighting up when a new pulse joined the network. Hope spread with every new flicker. On one shard, a young engineer named Priya crouched beside a beacon tower she had welded together. Sparks flew as she tightened the last bolt. She pressed a switch, and the beacon hummed before casting a gentle blue glow across the dusty ground. Nearby survivors cheered and clapped her back. Priya felt her heart swell as she had turned scraps of metal into a link to their scattered kin. Captain Reyes flew her skycraft along the chain of beacons. From her cockpit, she watched each light blink in sequence. They guided her through floating rock islands and storm-swept deserts, pointing the way to enclaves that needed help. She steered toward the next signal, thinking of the faces she would see. Weary scientists, hopeful families, brave volunteers. Each beacon was a promise that no one was truly alone. In a lush jungle under three suns, Darius stepped from his shuttle. Into thick green air, he smiled at the sound of beacons humming overhead. Survivors met him with open arms, shared fresh fruit, offered him water grown from the alien soil, and pressed him into meetings where they planned trade routes. Together, they sketched maps on tablet screens, drawing lines that connected fields of glowing crops to lists of needed medicines. Meanwhile, Ambassador Langridge's command shuttle sat anchored in a calm bay of glassy water. She initiated a secure hololink with representatives from each shard. Their faces appeared in floating windows above the deck. One by one, they spoke. A botanist described new edible plants. A medic reported cures for strange infections. An artist proposed a shared festival of light. Their voices wove into a single story of cooperation. As the holomeeting closed, Mira stood at the railing and watched the twin moons rise. She thought of Earth's proud history and how betrayal had tried to break them. Yet here they were, rebuilding something stronger. Her tear slipped down her cheek, but it carried no sorrow, only fierce pride. Humanity had taken shattered fragments of reality and begun to stitch them together with friendship and trust. Back on the storm world, volunteers tested storm catchers at full power. Lightning arced across metal rods and was safely stored in power cells. They sent shipments of energy back to other shards, where diesel reserves ran low. Engineers there used the electricity to run water purifiers and lights for newborn infants. Mothers smiled as they washed their babies by electric glow for the first time. Each shared watt-bound islands of exile closer together. On the glass, plane survey teams moved beacon towers into new positions. They recorded coordinates in a shared log and sent it across the network. A schoolteacher named Elena used that log to organize supply drops. She led a caravan across the glass, packed with medicine and books. Children rode atop crates and pointed to beacons as they passed. Every blink felt like a heartbeat in their new home's chest. In the shadow of crystalline trees, a festival of unity took shape. Survivors traded food-spiced noodles from one shard for sweet fruit from another. They taught each other dances that mixed human rhythms with alien chimes, musicians added. Glass drums carved from native crystal, families who had never met embraced and laughed, forging friendships that would outlast any council decree. The night sky filled with shared stars and shared joy. Messages also carried warnings. On one world, seismic tremors shook camps. Engineers tweaked beacon signals to include alerts for aftershocks. Across the network, rescue teams prepared to send aid. They loaded shuttles with repair tools and emergency shelters. When the tremors hit, help arrived within hours, guided by the glowing pulses of the beacons. Lives were saved, and gratitude deepened the bonds between enclaves. As weeks passed, a grand plan emerged, a reality bridge, scientists and engineers drafted blueprints for a vessel that could open controlled passages between shards. Darius and Chen pored over designs, dreaming of reunions and shared homes. The project united the brightest minds from each enclave, each O. Across the fractured void, humanity's hidden council hall hummed with nervous energy. Delegates from every shard gathered around a flickering holoscreen, huddled in clusters of light. Ambassador Langridge cleared her throat and pressed a come icon. A ripple passed through the crowd as the hijacked broadcast began, beaming their message straight into the heart of the Interstellar Council's domain in the Grand Council chamber. Nobles in silk robes watched in stunned silence. The smooth voice of Darius echoed across the marble walls. "We bring you truth." Images flickered to life, showing Earth's envoys betrayed and exiled. The glowing seals of condemnations and the evacuation vessels rising with hope still in their holes. Council members exchanged fearful glances, recognizing the evidence could not be ignored. Back in the hidden hall, delegates held their breath as witness after witness spoke. A scientist named Rosenthal described peaceful first contacts with alien species on distant shards, showing recordings of a deer-like creature, bowing in trust. A biologist shared footage of flourishing gardens tended by human hands under twin suns. Each clip was a testament to humanity's compassion, not the threat the council had claimed. On the holoscreen, Chancellor Roven's face blanched as the footage cut to families bound for exile, mothers comforting children, volunteers loading memory drives. His voice, usually so composed, wavered when the final scene showed Ambassador Langridge's vow, "We carry hope beyond your betrayal." Silence swallowed the chamber, and the robes of authority felt suddenly thin and hollow. The message then shifted to a chorus of voices from every shard. Engineers, medics, teachers, and children spoke in unison. "We are alive. We are rebuilding. We ask only for justice." Their words carried raw emotion, anger at the betrayal, pride in their resilience, and a plea for recognition. Across light years, the council's leaders watched, powerless to silence the truth. In the hidden hall, tears glinted in the eyes of delegates as they watched the council's domain dissolve under the weight of exposed lies. A trade representative whispered, "They cannot deny what they see." A teacher squeezed her colleague's hand, and a soldier bowed her head in silent vindication. Even in the darkness of exile, humanity's voice had broken through to the very seat of power. Back in the council chamber, ministers scrambled to respond. Some argued for damage control, suggesting that Earth's exile be upheld to preserve stability. Others, those who had long doubted Roven's judgment, began to speak up, demanding debate and reconsideration. The question of Earth's fate, once settled, now hung uncertain in the marbled air. In the hidden hall, Darius allowed himself a cautious smile. Ambassador Langridge rose and addressed the gathering. "Today we showed them who we truly are. Now we must stand ready for what comes next." Delegates nodded, their unity stronger than ever. They prepared to send a formal petition to the council, asking for readmission, or at least a chance to coexist. Across shards, survivors paused in their work. Engineers halted repairs, medics stopped dispensing aid, and farmers sat down their tools, all gathered around stations, watching the council's deliberations. When dissenting voices rose in the council chamber, cheering broke out on distant worlds. Children leaped into the air, and elders wept tears of relief. For the first time since exile, hope felt tangible. Late into the interstellar night, the council voted. Screens in the hidden hall displayed a cascade of green lights. Earth's petition was accepted pending review. Delegates erupted in quiet cheers, hugging one another across the hologrid. Ambassador Langridge allowed a single tear to fall as she whispered, "We made them listen." As the broadcast ended, the hidden hall remained silent, then filled with a roar of celebration. Hands clapped, voices sang fragments of Earth's old anthem, and tears of joy fell freely. In that shared triumph, humanity tasted victory not won by force, but by truth and unity. In that moment, survivors across all shards felt a shift. They had fled betrayal and rebuilt hope in alien skies. Now, they had reclaimed their place among the stars. And though the road ahead would demand more courage and cooperation, they faced it together, stronger for the trials they had endured, and bound by the truth they had made impossible to ignore. Asterisk. As the first light of the new dawn spread across the multiple shards, humanity stood ready to build its greatest achievement yet. Delegates and engineers gathered on a floating expanse where reality threads converged. They laid the first foundation stone of Unity Haven, a massive habitat that would span the fractured worlds. Ambassador Langridge placed her hand on the smooth surface and whispered a promise. Here, humans would forge a home that no betrayal could shatter. Around her, volunteers from every shard cheered, and the hum of construction began, carrying hope on its steady rhythm. Crews worked side by side, blending alien materials with Earth steel. In one corner, workers carved living walls from crystalline trees. In another, they poured concrete mixed with glowing sands from the desert shard. Architects and artists painted murals that showed Earth's oceans flowing into forests of pale trunks, bound by strands of alien vines. Engineers tuned reality stabilizers that hummed like gentle chords. Every beam raised and every panel set felt like a victory over exile. In the soft evening light, the first arch of Unity Haven stood proud, a bridge between worlds and between hearts. Families moved into the new habitat in simple transports fitted with reality buffers. Children gasped at green parks where earth grass grew beside flowers that glowed under twin suns. They chased one another around clear streams fed by water piped from the Mirror Lake shard. Parents worked with local botanists to plant trees that combined earth fruit with alien resilience. Elders shared songs of old, teaching young voices to blend human lyrics with crystalline chimes. In laughter and play, every survivor felt roots taking hold in this brave new world. In the central plaza, a ceremony marked humanity's readmission to the Interstellar Council.
Ow!
Delegates in simple robes stepped forward as the council's new charter was unrolled on a floating platform. Chancellor Roven, his face lined with regret, offered a formal apology for the betrayal that had exiled Earth. He extended his hand to Ambassador Langridge in a gesture of renewed friendship. When she accepted, the crowd erupted in quiet applause. Tears of relief and joy fell freely, as if the long shadow of exile had finally lifted from every soul. Ambassador Langridge rose to speak, her voice steady and warm. She spoke of survival in the glass desert of unity, forged by the Beacon Network, and of healing at the Mirror Lake. She thanked every person who had dared to hope when all seemed lost. Her words painted a vision of cooperation, shared science labs, joint cultural festivals, and children learning side by side from human and alien teachers alike. As she spoke, the habitat's lights flickered to life in the shape of a rising sun, a silent echo of Earth's emblem glowing once more. Under star-studded skies, Unity Haven's council convened for its first meeting. Representatives from each shard sat around a circular table made of living crystal. They drafted plans for free passage between enclaves, shared research on alien ecosystems, and annual gatherings that would celebrate both Earth traditions and the wonders they had discovered. A young engineer named Priya proposed extending the reality bridge to new shards still unexplored. Delegates nodded and added their support. In that chamber, diversity was not a barrier, but the very foundation of strength. Late that night, Ambassador Langridge walked along a path lit by lanterns carved from glowing crystals. She paused at a small memorial for those who had fallen during the Exodus and the fractured passage. Names were etched on smooth stones gathered from each shard's shore. She placed a single white blossom on the memorial and whispered a vow. "We will remember every sacrifice and honor every journey." The blossom glowed softly before folding into the shrine's petals. In that quiet moment, she felt the weight of the past and the promise of the future held gently in her heart. As the first full cycle passed in Unity Haven, life bloomed in ways no one could have imagined. Schools opened beneath glass domes, where children studied Earth history and alien physics in the same lesson. Markets featured fruits that shone. Like lanterns and fabrics spun from crystalline fibers, musicians composed new symphonies that blended human rhythms with storm-charged chords. Each day brought discoveries: a healing herb from the forest shard, a new dance learned from floating island musicians, a friendship formed in the glow of desert dawn. Humanity had fled a broken reality, but here it found a world reforged by unity, stronger than any council seal.